Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a designer that makes a lot of geeky and nerdy stuff centered around gaming and entertainment. If you're a tabletop gamer, you might already own something I've made. I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit for those who are curious about what goes into making entertainment products. This video is about a gaming product that I helped bring to life through a publisher called Hunt a Killer. If you've trawled through the gaming section of one of the big box stores near you, you've probably seen the name and the distinctive branding at one of those retailers. Hunt a Killer is a murder mystery entertainment company, and they release fantastic true crime stories where you're able to immerse yourself in the evidence of the tale. This evidence can be anything that's really admissible in court. The evidence in this box are actually the game components. They can be items, documents, videos, pictures, anything really. You use this evidence to answer the most important question in the entire game, which is, who is the killer? So I'm going to take you through 4 aspects that it took to make this game. This product is officially titled Whodonut, a murder mystery jigsaw puzzle game. Whodonut was created entirely in-house at Hunt a Killer. The story and narrative design was developed by 2 very talented writers. I got to sit in for the whole process of this, which was really cool to watch. I took the lead design and the tactical execution of all the visual components for this game, essentially as an art director and graphic designer over the photography. So the game is essentially 2 modes of play, murder mystery and jigsaw puzzle. It's an interesting combination, but trust me, it works really well. It's a premium direct-to-consumer offering that doesn't make any appearances in the subscription model or within any retail store that you can buy it in. The puzzle itself is a photograph from a real location in Seattle. It depicts a murder scene where you can clearly see that a struggle took place, but you might actually have difficulty telling where the blood ends and the jelly begins. So yes, that does mean there was location scouting component to this, as is set dressing, and prop design. I'll get to it in a minute, but the photograph was altered from its original shot. The photo was altered in a few ways to better facilitate the theming, prop placement, and overall conceptual execution of a man meeting his end in a silly donut shop. All the design choices you see on the puzzle are based around the visual branding of the donut shop itself. The murder mystery component of the game was the deciding factor in not showing the reference image of the puzzle, which I know is kind of weird for a puzzle, don't you think? But it works very well in this context. Because you want to know exactly what you're putting together, right? Well, this isn't that game. It's a 1,000-piece challenge to reconstruct a gruesome crime scene to bring a murderer to justice. And if that sounds rad to you, then you're the type of person that this game was made for. So with that said, let's take a look inside the actual game box. The unboxing experience. Got the game instructions. We've got a 1,000-piece puzzle. We've got a detective's notebook. We've got a solution envelope. And an answer board that functions somewhat like an advent calendar. It has 24 cavities, and inside each one of these cavities, if I can pop them open, are pieces. These are the missing puzzle pieces that you must grab after you answer the multiple choice questions in the detective's notebook. Everything here fits in a nice base and lid box construction. It's probably the most common construction that you've seen on any board game. So I'm going to go over each one of these in detail in a few, but let me pack this up real quick. All right, so let's move on to the gameplay to see exactly how this works. It's made for any number of people to play, so you could do this solo or with a group. Be for your game night, it could be time for yourself to unwind, it could be with your significant other at home. You can even do it with your pets. The premise is to solve the mystery of who killed Fred Jackson Jr., the owner of Do Not Donut, a fictitious donut shop. You come into play because the detective investigating the crime comes down with a tummy ache that sends him to the hospital, and you're the only investigator available. You must put together the pieces of the puzzle, decipher the detective's notes, and use your sleuthing skills to answer the 6 questions that were unanswered. When you answer a question, take the corresponding puzzle piece to use. All 6 pieces are shaped differently, so you can't mix them up with the blank pieces. I'd recommend answering all questions at the very end, because it's just difficult to answer questions about a puzzle you haven't assembled yet. There's 2 stages of this game to solve the mystery. First is to put the puzzle together, and the second is to answer the multiple choice questions in the detective's notebook to help solve the mystery. The overall time really depends on how quick you are with puzzles, but the mystery itself takes about an hour to complete, I would say. It took me a while to assemble a 1,000-piece puzzle without a reference picture, just so you know. It was challenging, it was pretty wild, but it was really worth the effort, especially in the development phase. Answering the questions is pretty straightforward, so if you answer an S on one of the multiple choice questions, you punch it out of the answer board, and you take the piece on the S cavity. Same goes with H, or I, or P. You place them into the puzzle and that'll help guide you to reach a conclusion of who you think the killer is. The game ends when you've reached a conclusion over who killed Fred Jackson Jr., so you reach into the box, you take out the solution envelope, you break it open, and you read what's inside. You can think of it as somewhat of an epilogue, and what it's going to do is it's going to reveal who the killer actually was. So now you can find out how right you were all along. All right, so now that you know how to play, I'd like to go over the design a little bit, some of the graphic and the product design work. So this game has 2 layers of visual branding applied. It has the outer layer, which is the hunt-a-killer branding itself. It's black, white, high contrast. It's probably something you've seen at any one of the big box stores that you frequent. That's the top level product branding. The next layer of visual branding applied is the in-world branding. That's of the donut shop itself, of Do Not Not Donut. And that is actually really playful and colorful. It's a very bright color palette. It's got a lot of cheeky humor involved with the placement of objects and with some of the decorations around. So you'll find some Easter eggs and just some fun little things throughout the entire puzzle. The donuts, repetitive objects, and the unclear crimson smears blend together to make a pretty beautiful but horrifying scene where you know a man's life ended amongst a tray of jelly donuts and strewn about items. How sick. Anyway, the typography of the donut shop is composed of a short and stout humanist sans serif font that mirrors the donuts themselves. The visual identity overwhelms the customers with highly saturated colors, thick typography, and exciting messaging to get them to purchase a dozen donuts instead of only a few. Whodonut was created using just a few resources: a staged photo from a scouted location and a simple visual identity. All the packaging die lines and typography were created in Adobe Illustrator, and all photographic editing was done in Adobe Photoshop. There were 2 challenges to this game as a designer. One was balancing a remote photo shoot from 2,000 miles away, and the other one was getting that photo to align perfectly with the die line of the puzzle. The die line was actually unchangeable, so that kind of complicated things. It meant that the photo actually had to be perfect or have minimal nudging in post. Some of the pieces had information on them that actually couldn't be cut. So there was quite a bit of Photoshop magic going on here. Each piece is pretty small. It's a 1,000-piece puzzle. So you can imagine it's less than an inch. Not everything you see in the image is natural. There was a lot of doctoring and digital manipulation that had to happen to make this all come together. Despite these challenges, we came together to make an amazing product that looks beautiful and is actually really fun to play. Speaking of that, let's go over all of the individual components in the game.
The outer box, it has a lid and a base construction to contain everything. It's 9.5 by 9.5 by 3 inches with a 1.5 millimeter thick board that contains print on both sides. It has a black interior in the box. It's a small detail, but it does have an outsized impact in the perception of overall quality. There are thumb notches in the lid for easy opening as well, adding to a frustration-free unboxing experience. There's also a full-color saddle-stitched instructional booklet that comes with the game. This should be the first thing that you see. The next thing is the solution envelope. It's pretty self-evident. Its function is to hide the answer until you're ready to check your conclusion against it. It's a standard number 10 printed envelope that's sealed with adhesive. After that, we have the detective's notebook. It's where you get up to speed on the details of the case that were observed by the detective who entrusted you to solve the mystery. It's got 2 parts, an exterior cover and a set of interior pages. Now we come to the puzzle, which is the flagship component of this game and the visual reconstruction of the crime scene. Under everything, you'll see the answer board. It functions similar to a holiday advent calendar. It's not actually part of the box base. There's a central hole here that you can pick it up and move it around with if you need to. I've never actually taken it out of the box base, though when I was designing this, I did intentionally leave any print off of the non-visible areas to save ink. And here you can see exactly how this advent calendar works. You choose your answer, you punch out the cavity, and you take the piece. So let's talk about the production details. I'll start with the detective's notebook. The outer cover is a dark blue textured glossy paper with metallic printing. Since the base of the paper is blue, the silver was printed in a single color, which had to be specified from Pantone. The inner pages are full color and actually composed my own natural handwriting along with some simulated coffee stain marks. It's not the cleanest, but we were going for an element of irreverence here in representing the detective. At the end of the written portion of the notebook, there are 6 multiple choice questions labeled A through X, with each question's answers assigned to one of those letters. There's 32 pages of the notebook, which equates to 8 pages of paper folded in half and counting either side's those halves. I know that's like toilet paper math, but bear with me. It's officially 8 leaves that make 32 writable surfaces. The whole thing, including cover, is saddle stitched together, which means staples down the center of it in order to bind it together. The solution envelope is a standard number 10 envelope that's sealed with adhesive, printed with only black ink. Inside, you'll find a letter that you can read as the epilogue of the story, confirming or denying if your answer was correct. This is actually the simplest thing in the entire box. There's also a full-color, saddle-stitched instruction booklet that comes with the game. You'll typically find this on top of all of the other components, and it would be the first thing that you see when you open the box itself. You can see that this booklet is saddle-stitched together, just like the detective's notebook. And this brings us to the flagship component of the game, and the visual reconstruction of the crime scene. When assembled, the puzzle is roughly 20 by 27 inches, which is a standard size for puzzle frames that are made if you're so inclined to frame it. It's composed of about 2mm chipboard, as you can see. And if you were curious of what this tool is, this is actually a caliper. You can get one of these at any craft store. Each puzzle piece is around an inch. The puzzle is offset printed in full color on matte paper to cut glare from an overhead light. Here you can see the rosette pattern of offset printing under a jeweler's loop.
But with all that said, I hope this has satisfied some of your curiosity into what it takes to make a gaming product. I could make quite a few of these deep dives about some of the other things that I've also helped make, so hit the like button to let me know you've enjoyed this and you'd like to see more. Also, if you've worked on a gaming product before, or have had aspirations to do so, I'd like to hear from you in the comments. You can get more updates from me by subscribing to this channel or from my email newsletter. Link in the description below. Have a good day.